Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my channel. My name's Frank. Today is another installment in the Ender-5 Plus build series in collaboration with Creality. And today we are going to be installing a silent mainboard in the Ender-5 Plus. This is going to be a little bit different because typically I would bring the Ender-5 Plus in here. However, it's a little hard to see, but getting the Ender-5 Plus through this little doorway with the glass case is a little difficult. It is one big boy. That opening is one small boy. So we're going to actually take it into the other print room and actually get this silent mainboard installed. This is the Creality, just the standard silent mainboard, and it's absolutely awesome. I have two of these in my CR10Ss, and we're gonna go ahead and throw this in. So let's hop over to the other room, and I'm gonna kind of explain and give you a little bit of rundown on what the silent board is, what it does, and we'll be able to hear the difference once I'm done with the stock Ender-5 Plus that I have and the new upgraded one. So let's go take a look. Welcome to the print room. It must look a mess. I apologize. We're at a little bit of a low angle here, so just deal with it. Down here are my Ender-5 Pluses. We're going to be pulling one of them out. Probably this one, because that one I need to move the desk for. Again, they are big heaping boys. So if you guys have never seen or heard or messed with a silent mainboard, we're going to squat a little bit. See? Hey, we're good. You guys can see me now. If you guys have never messed with a silent mainboard, it makes the printer silent, and I used to sleep on these a lot when I first got into 3D printing. I keep slowly moving up. I used to sleep on these a lot. I got the stepper dampener motors, these little polyurethane bushing mounts that actually go on the steppers. And while they did make a difference on my CR10Ss, and I noticed no quality difference, that was another myth, that's for another video. They didn't affect anything, so stop spreading rumors. They worked great. However, the difference, let's say that my printer was loud at a 10, the stepper dampeners took that down to a 7 or an 8. It was definitely noticeable. It made an improvement. When I put this silent mainboard in one of my CR10Ss, it took it down to like a 2. I couldn't even tell that that printer was on unless my room was completely silent and I could just barely hear the fan running. If you have any type of music, fan, some type of, ambient noise in your house, because houses make noise, you can't even tell that the printer is on. Now, the Ender-5 Pluses are significantly louder than my stock CR10S ever was, so I'm really excited to see how much of a difference this makes. And what's nice is I have two of them, so I can upgrade one and we can compare notes. So we're gonna go and pull this Ender-5 Plus out, we'll get it turned around however we need to, and we're gonna dig in. And I've never installed one on this, so this is gonna be a little bit of a learning experience for me too. However, it can't be that much different than the CR10S. It's a mainboard, there's only so much you can do. Turns out the Ender-5 Plus and the CR10S actually share the exact same mainboard, just depending on the firmware you get. Now, we're not gonna be flashing this firmware. You guys will see, TH3D and Tiny Machines firmware and all this upgraded firmware. From the research I've done, and if I am wrong, please let me know in the comments. In order to flash the mainboard on a touchscreen Creality printer, the Ender-5 Pluses, the CR10Ss, you actually need to go and typically get a new whole touchscreen because the touchscreen systems on them aren't compatible with the upgraded aftermarket firmware. More into that, you can Google and research that. There's a lot of stuff on Reddit about that, which is really informative, and stuff on TH3D and Tiny Machines about that. So we're going to be using the stock firmware that's on the Ender-5 Plus's silent mainboard because it works. I've had no problems with the stock Creality firmware, so let's jump right in, okay? Okay, so right here I have my stock Ender-5 Plus. I turned it on, I moved everything kind of to an extreme angle, and I want to actually auto home it so you guys can listen to how loud it is. I have my boom mic set up right here, and the house is completely quiet, so let's see just how loud this thing is. Yeah, so you guys get the idea. So we're gonna go ahead and turn that off, and then we're gonna get this out and we're gonna start. So pretty loud. So because this is one heaping, hulking boy, and I don't feel like trying to move it out of here, I'm gonna be on the ground and we'll be on the carpet working on this. So you're gonna want to get it at a good angle, either tipping it forward or tipping it on its side, probably ideal. Avoid, the motors. There's a lot of stuff hanging off the back of this. So definitely be careful. We're gonna probably go with a front forward orientation, and what's gonna happen is your gantry is gonna fall forward. Be careful of that. We don't wanna break anything while we're doing this. And then we're gonna wanna get good access to the bottom. So, that seems pretty good. I got the panel right here, so we're gonna start. I'll be taking the camera on and off as we kind of, you know, tear this thing apart. Everything we're doing should be able to be accomplished with all the stock tools that came with the printer itself. And then the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and pop off these screws on the back. Always remember to break torque with the flat side of your Allen key first. Then go by, and then you can actually spin them out with the round side because you don't want to damage anything. Make sure you have somewhere to keep all your screws so you don't lose them. All right, so you should be able to pop this panel off, and there's actually a fan connected to the plate itself. Make sure the first thing I would do right now, right when you open it, is take a picture of where all of these plugs and wires go, because you're gonna wanna see exactly how they run. So let's go ahead in here and take this picture. So on some Creality printers, you'll come to find that some of the plugs are actually hot glued into the board. So you have to be very careful when removing them, and as you're messing around with them, you might just have to kind of scrape the hot glue off and pry it away. Okay, so this one's off. We got the fan unplugged. We can move that to the side. And I'm gonna try to tilt this back a little bit more so I can get a better angle on it. So this is your main board. This is your MOSFET. This is what actually helps regulate the power, so you actually don't have any power supply issues. This is the touchscreen control, well, for the touchscreen itself. You have your power switch kind of sitting back over here to the side. And then you have your power supply. And then you have your actual plug. So there's not actually a lot in here, and it's actually much more easier to manage than the CR10S. There's way more room for activities in here, so that's really nice. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go and we're gonna actually start unplugging things and moving things around so we can get better access. Now, some things are gonna be very easy to manipulate, and it's gonna be kind of foolproof where they go. But again, those pictures are gonna help you, and we're gonna do our best to get rid of some of this hot glue that Creality insists in covering everything with. So like the plug for your touchscreen, it obviously only goes there. So we can move that back. So that'll hang. What else can we get? All right, so we have the screws with our power wires. Now, very much take good pictures of where these power wires are. The red ones on the bottom, the black ones on the top. You have the skinny ones. All of these need to go back into the exact same spot. So please just make sure you're taking good photos. You can even use some tape to label things if you really want to. And for the love of God, I think it goes without saying, please make sure that this whole system's unplugged. Don't leave it plugged into your wall while doing this. Now, everything here is labeled X, Y, and Z. You can see these yellow tags. And these are the opposites of the wires you hooked up when you were building the printer. So this one says X, and it goes to our X side. We have our Y, we have our two Zs, and we should have our E extruder. So we can go ahead and pop these out. So my two Zs are actually still hot glued together, and we're just gonna leave those how they are. All right, so all these are actually our stepper controls. So we can kind of pull these back a little bit. Actually, I went and tucked them right under the power supply in the corner. All right, now we have better access to a picture over here. And then we have things like, these are all our end stops. So we have our X end stop right here. The next one is our Y end stop. And since this has a BL Touch, there are gonna be a couple extra plugs in it, so just be careful with those. So there's only one wire in here that is yellow, black, and red, and that goes all the way to the top there. So seeing what wires can only go in what spots really does help you. And on the board itself, it actually says X, Y, and Z. And the Z is part of the BL Touch because this doesn't actually have a Z stop. Okay? And it's part of the BL Touch system. So you can probably see it that these two wires are kind of ran together. So make sure you pay attention to where those go. And then last, we have some fans right here. Now, we've ran into our first duplicate wires. All of these white wires over here are actually all of the same. So one is for our bed and one is for our hot end. So these need to go back in the same spot. So however you need to keep these separate, make sure you do that. All right, so mine are still hot glued together, left and right. So these can only go in one way, but don't mix these up, okay? And then last is the power wires. So we have our red, our black, and then we have two reds. Now these two reds should be going, one should be going to the thermistor, or the heated bed, and the other one should be going to the hot end. So these need to go back in the same spots as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unscrew them, hold them like this, and I'm gonna bend them out in their appropriate directions. So just like that. So we have our left one going that way and our right one going that way. So everything's disconnected. We're gonna go ahead and unscrew this now. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult to break the torque, because of all the components in the way, but do your best with the flat end to try not to strip any of this out. All right, I was able to get to all of them pretty easily, so that's good. Okay, so it's all loose, and let's take her up. That's it. So that's how you take out the main board, and all the screws are still in it, so let's go and grab these. There should be 4. Put this somewhere safe. You definitely want to keep hold of this because, hey look, it even says it's for a CR10S. Look at that. It just has the right firmware on it. Just in case something goes wrong, just in case the silent board doesn't work, for whatever reason, keep this somewhere safe. You're also not going to want to put your greasy fingers all over the back and all over the components. I'm holding the sides very carefully. Just if you want to wear rubber gloves, wear rubber gloves. It's probably a little bit smarter, but I've been doing this for a while and I'm not worried about it. So here are the silent boards, and they look pretty much identical. One's black. That's usually a pretty big giveaway on them being the silent boards. Creality likes making them in this black PCM board or PCB board. I forget what it's actually called. So we're gonna go ahead and put this in. And install goes exactly the same, guys. You just reverse the order. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug everything back in. There's not gonna be much talking because it's literally just undoing what we just did. Okay, so here's a little bit of a better shot of the main board, and it might be a little difficult to see, but we're gonna do our best right here. So right next to the screwdriver, you can just make out an X, and then there's a Y, and then there's a Z, and then hidden in there, there's also a Z, a Y, and an X, and then all over here, the board also says X, Y, Z1, Z2, and E1 extruder. So the board is labeled exactly the same. So it is a little difficult to put this stuff in the wrong spot, but again, always double, triple, quadruple check yourself. All right, guys, everything's plugged in. One thing I do want to point out is when you're actually doing these screws right here, make sure that you're not slipping the wire underneath it. What you're gonna do is as you loosen these little contact screws here, this little panel is gonna open and you wanna feed the wire into the top hole, not the bottom. To make sure you got them into the right holes, just make sure that you give like a little tug on the wires. If they slip out perfectly easily, you have them in the wrong spot. So make sure they're all tight. And then what I would go and do is tighten the last 2, just to make sure everything is snug and nothing's gonna rattle and come loose, because you definitely don't want anything metal coming loose and jiggling around in there. So that's it, everything's plugged in. I compared it, cross-checked it with my pictures. You can never check enough. Check, triple check, recheck, all of that. So everything's back in, everything's good. This might be a good time to clean out some dust if you have it. Make sure nothing's, looks messed up, nothing's burning. You wanna look at all the connections on your MOSFET. You want to look at all the connections on your power supply. Everything's nice and secure because you don't want to come back in here once you're done with this. And that's it. Let's get the panel back on. I'll throw it back underneath there and we'll fire it up for the first time. Okay, guys, we're back together sitting here. I got it plugged in. I haven't turned it on yet. I'm hoping everything works. This is probably a little risky for video. If nothing goes wrong, I'll upload this cut. If something goes wrong, I'll probably edit it out and tell you about it later. So BL Touch works. It's booting up, Ender-5 Plus. I threw an SD card back in there. That's my old print, that's good. All right, let's move it for the first time. So the fan right here is still just as loud as it was, which, I mean, that's totally fine. But let's auto home. Wow. Guys, that is disgustingly quiet. Okay. That's amazing. So yeah, that works. That works great. So the next thing we're gonna do is, I don't have any filament loaded on it, but that's good. We're gonna go and heat up everything, and we're actually gonna send like a ghost print. I wanna make sure the bed heats up, I wanna make sure the nozzle heats up, and I wanna make sure it goes through its proper sequences, and it's just gonna ghost print. Then maybe I'll throw some filament in there at the end, and I'll do like the raft of the print I just previously did. All right, so I have my left side Ender-5 Plus homed and ready to go, and then I have the new Silent Board one. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, they are both in the exact same position. They are both like 180, 180, 50. And what I want to go ahead and do is auto home this, and we'll catch the sound from this, and then we're going to go auto home this and catch the sound from this, and I'm going to cut back and forth so you guys can hear. Isn't that absolutely insane? And also remember that these printers are sitting on a MDF board in a metal frame. This is like an echo chamber, so every noise and sound is amplified. I bet if I picked these up and got them off of that wood, they'd be even quieter. Any vibrations I'm feeling or hearing are being translated through this board, and it's still quiet. This made a gigantic difference. It made the exact same difference that my CR10S's made. So now what I've also been doing is I also went and I actually was heating up my hot ends. So we are actually to temperature 215, 60. It seems to be heating up exactly the same, and there's just a little bit of filament sticking out there. So I'm gonna go ahead and extrude some of that out real fast just to make sure that the extruder moves in the way it is supposed to. So we'll go ahead and feed some through. We have filament coming out and it looks great. Two or three things I wanna talk about. I didn't think about that when I swapped out the main board, it lost all of my auto level settings. It lost my Z height compensation, it lost all the memory. So when I went to print, it just started printing, and it was about a ½ inch above the bed. What it also had done is it had turned off in my settings auto leveling. So make sure you go back into your settings, make sure you turn auto level back on, run another whole measurement sequence, and then what I had to do is then lower my Z height compensation again, so the little feeler gauge, the 0.2 millimeter feeler gauge, actually fit between my nozzle and my bed again. So you're basically gonna have to go back and just re-level your bed. Very easy to do, it was very quick. Like I said, I ran the measuring sequence, went through all of that, and then just lowered my Z compensation until it was in the proper height. And then once I ran my first print, I used my prime line to go here and to adjust, and then I was able to dial in the actual the Z height compensation. So right now I'm at -1.8, and it is printing absolutely perfectly. I have no quarrels with this. This is dialed in exactly how it was. It's printing, it's heated. The loudest thing on this printer now is the fan, and that's the same gripe I have with my CR10 Max, pretty much any of these printers. And it's actually the fan down here in the power supply, the main control box. Again, same with the CR10 Max. Honestly, if the fan's the loudest thing, and I'm talking, and I can probably talk real kind of quiet, and you still can't hear the printer, and if I pause, you still can't hear the printer, you can hear the fan. 100% worth it. These main boards range anywhere between 40 to 70, depending on where you find them. You can get them on sale. You can do a lot with them. So I absolutely recommend this setup. Last thing I want to do real quick is I'm actually going to go ahead and kill the print, because I want to see if print resume still works properly. So we're going to go ahead and turn that back on. BL Touch reactivates, and it should give me the option to resume the print, and it'll start heating, it'll auto home, and we'll see. Yep, resume print, go ahead. It's gonna start heating up. All right, here we go. Print resume is back on. And yes, I did a print resume on a raft. Right when it gets back to where it was, it left a little bit of a blob. It should cut right through that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and stop this print. And we're back to printing. Print resume works. See, it just hit that blob. It's gonna probably mess it up a little bit. Usually you don't do a print resume on a raft. I would probably have just restarted this print right from the get-go, right from scratch, but it is working. So print resume works. Really, I don't really want to test thermal runaway. That's always a little risky. But the last thing we can test is the filament run out sensor, and that'll kill the print for me. Okay, and the filament sensor still works. It turned off, killed the print, and it's gonna wait for a filament reload, which I'm not gonna do. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it off, and that's a wrap. All right, that does it for this video, guys. 10 out of 10, would absolutely recommend a silent board. It doesn't need to be the Creality brand. They do make aftermarket ones that might be a little bit cheaper, might offer more features. But the TMC 2208 and 2209 smoothers that come on these silent boards, they are what make it worth it. They are what actually make the stepper motors a lot quieter. They smooth everything out, less vibration, better movement. So getting a silent board definitely makes the printer a lot quieter. Now, I don't need silent boards in that room. It's in a separate room. We don't hear them anyway, but if you do have a printer in a loft or an apartment or upstairs somewhere, you are gonna hear them. They are gonna vibrate through the floor, so these do become a lot more worth it. Or maybe you just hate the sound. I know people who don't like it. I personally like the sound of the 3D printer. So to each his own. This isn't a necessary upgrade. It's only gonna make things quieter, but this does it for the last upgrade I wanna do to these Ender-5 Pluses. Now we can move into actually printing our Iron Man bus. The whole point of this entire series. So the next video is going to be finding the bus, slicing the G-code, getting everything going. So probably in the next video, it'll all be one print. So I'm really excited about that. Someone's at my door. Hold on. Where was I? Anyway, yeah, we're going to actually start making the Iron Man bus. So hopefully in the whole next video, we're going to go over settings. We're going to go over the slicing, looking at the printer, what can fit on the Ender-5 Plus in one shot. We're not going to be going incredibly in-depth in the Cura settings, but I will talk about infill, support density, all that, things that I use to make my prints go a little bit smoother, and what I look for in terms of print survivability. Just because you can print big doesn't mean you always should, but sometimes you can get away with it. If you guys haven't already, if you could subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If you came here from the Creality website, however you found my channel, I teach you how to make all this nerdy stuff. I have a lot of cool videos coming out. I have a whole new Iron Man suit and work. I have a lot of cool props. It's not all Marvel. I am branching out. I just happen to like Marvel, so it's worked out pretty well for me. If you guys want to join a really cool 3D printing community and cosplay community and learn more about this, there's a link down below for my Discord. It's almost at 1,000 members, and maybe you guys can help us push us over that edge. It's full of beginners and newbies and pros and experts on 3D printing and cosplay, and people are making all types of cool stuff. It's an absolutely wonderful community, a lot less cluttered than the Facebook groups, and you'll get an answer much quicker. I promise you that. So go please check that out. That just about does it for this video, guys. Again, huge shout out to Creality for giving me this Ender-5 Plus to do this project with. It's been such a cool printer and definitely is turning into my favorite printer. I wish I had it when I made this suit. I would have been able to print a lot more parts, bigger, but my CR10S still did the job absolutely beautifully. But the Ender-5 Plus is sneaking up on it real quickly, so definitely make sure you guys go check that out. And that just about does it. I'm gonna stop ranting and rambling now. Thank you so much for watching, and you guys have a good day.